Hello, welcome guys. We are here with a sponsored PBG player and Pro Tour competitor from Magic the Gathering, Justin Rios. He has a huge resume of playing professional card games and couldn't be more proud of anybody on the team. He's pretty young, I think the youngest on the team, and has what seems to be a huge resume as far as doing very well at competitive events. So we woke up today with some news from Bandai, and it's been about a month or so, I want to say almost a month, of when Cross Worlds hit. You know, a few of us had been testing the set before the set got hit, before it hit actual, like, you know, us having the cards and stuff, and we knew this was a problem. Everybody knew it was a problem, but, you know, Bandai obviously knew to, like, with Bobbity, they were like, okay, well, this is a problem because everybody was posting all these, like, crazy boards that you can make. Granted that a lot of these people were, like, gold fishing, but a lot of us were actually just, like, seeing the interactions that they would have, and, you know, it was something that they didn't want to. They felt like, I felt like they jumped the gun a little bit on the Bobbity thing. I think they could have let it play out for, like, the first release weekend or so, but I think they didn't want to do the same thing with Mecha Frieza, even though that was, like, the common factor where you were having the problem. Maybe Bobbity would have been fine with just by hitting Mecha Frieza, you know, and not being able to objection and get to your, like, speed up to your play and drop the Bobbity and the chain attack trunks and all that stuff. So fast forward now, and, you know, a few weeks of playtesting. We've had the PPG Super Release Tournament, which was, I think, the second biggest tournament in the nation as far as, you know, competitive events that were not regionals, because regionals was not. Oh, shout out to Dusty, thank you for hosting us. I think it was the largest event that could have came up, other than there was a Core TCG Super Release event, which I think got 150. We got about 110, and we got some sample data from that. And I know Bandai was watching. They were just making, like, they wanted to see how this played out. And a lot of this comes from the players, like, wanting to address their concerns. Obviously, they're in the group. They see all these posts. Sometimes you can be proactive and hit it before it actually becomes an issue, like they did with Bobbity. And sometimes they just don't. Sometimes it's just they want to see how it plays out. And I think with a leader, sometimes it's a harder decision to make that hit, and for them to just errata a battle card, I felt like that was a lot easier for them to go and, you know, execute. But with the leader, I think they just wanted to see it, and that's why you see so much time passed since this, you know, mecha tyranny, if you want to call it. And, you know, it's just something that finally led up to the point where we had made sure to contact Bandai ourselves. We had a lot of sample data. We had a lot of, you know, we saw you on stream play against Marcel Russell, #1 rated player in the world, and, you know, just completely dismantle him with this Mega GT deck. A turn 1 kill, and then a turn 2 kill, in a Swift 2-0, fastest match I think we covered all day. And I think a few things like that, you just don't want lingering around in the game. You know, it's going to happen in games. Even look at Yu-Gi-Oh! They had a ban list. Next day, a few PPG guys created an FTK. And it's going to happen, you know. Not to say that these companies don't have competent R&D teams or R&D whatsoever, but I think listening to the community is definitely something huge, because look at Yu-Gi-Oh! They've had this ban list out for a little bit longer than Cross Worlds hit, and they still haven't done anything about the FTK. And then you have Bandai here just like, okay, yeah, we're gonna like stop this now, you know, before it gets too out of hand. And I feel like everybody's seen the power of Mecha Frieza and have seen that it's something that shouldn't really be around, especially for newer players that want to get into the game. And I've seen it here in tournaments as a shop owner. You know, you see players and they're like, man, that Mecha Frieza deck, man, you know, and then you see them every week progress into something new. It's like, how do I beat this deck? How do I beat this deck? And then, you know, that final, like, 2 weeks they're all like on Mecha Frieza for the most part, and they're just trying to build their own like creative like deck, but with Mecha Frieza, you know, which is what, you know, even me for one I ended up doing, because I was like, I want to play Ultra Instinct Goku, but you know it's not good with any leader but Mecha, and then that's where you get to that point. So enough of me rambling. What do you think about the Mecha hit, and do you think it, you know, had to be addressed now? Do you think it should have been addressed earlier, or do you think, you know, what are your thoughts?
I think when it comes to the actual banning of Mecha Frieza, I think that it was something necessary for the game. Not the banning, but just an errata. Banning probably would have potentially been better, because this leader is, in my opinion, not dead at all. It definitely got nerfed. It's not going to be as effective as it currently is, but it's still going to see play. It's like people are still going to want to like try and play Cell or anything like that, just because of how dominant Cell was prior to Mecha Frieza being around in the competitive scene. But I definitely think that Mecha Frieza's errata is still going to be around. It's still going to be good. You're going to be able to play like Flying Nimbus without paying mana, so you can actually like spend your turn, like if you have a 4-drop, you don't have to wait until turn 5 to keep up like a negate or keep up a bloodlust. You can still just play it on curve, which is going to be huge, because other decks are not going to be able to do that. Other decks are still going to have to keep a mana up to negate, or keep a mana up for any extra cards they're possibly playing. So I think that the errata though is definitely healthy for the game, that there's going to be other leaders that are going to start seeing more play, just because of how dominant Frieza was now, like how it currently is. But with the new errata, it's still going to be around. It's just that other decks are still gonna see potential play.
I really like their thought process in doing this, and I really honestly, I was one of the people. Our email clearly gave them 2 options. It gave them the ban it, so you don't have to worry about the errata.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to worry about it still being very powerful and getting people turned off. And it also just makes you feel more safe. Like, okay, he's away now. You know, he's locked up in jail. Instead of like, okay, he's still on probation. You know, and he's out there. So I feel like that's a good way of comparing it. And I don't think it's a huge problem for them, for this card to be, you know, just out there on probation. But it's something that I think a lot more people would be comfortable with. Just like, God. You know, especially that's including us.
Right.
You know, that was our first suggestion, and then our second suggestion was, hey, just go and errata it, and you know, make it significantly worse, and you know, just hope that other people, after it gets hit, they just lose all faith, do something else, because you want to have flexibility, you want to have variety. Want to have all these things. Obviously, free Cold Bloodlust is still strong. Free, you know, Nimbus is still strong. These are all things that are going to help you awaken, and I really like how they actually made it just once during your opponent's turn.
Right. That's probably the best way they could have errated it. Instead of it just being once per turn, so once on your turn, once on their turn, it's probably best to just do it reactively instead of proactively. The problem with it is not mainly because of how you could just Bloodlust for free on their turn or Beam for free on their turn. The problem was usually like, you know, playing multiple Planet Vegetas turn 1, or playing multiple Monakas turn 1, you know, or like playing Senzu Beans to like extend your plays and whatnot. But if they were to errata it, I think this is probably the best way that they could have.
Yeah,
so.
we are going to be running some post Mecha Nerf games, and I think we have. I mean, that's why we've only been doing PBG Battle Series as non-Mecha decks, because we saw this coming. We saw one of 2 things coming.
Some form of ban, errata.
Exactly. So we didn't want to go and just continue with. That's why you didn't even. I don't even think we have a Mecha Frieza deck profile on our channel. Just because, like, everybody else is doing it, everybody knows what is good. You know, like, everybody really... It's no surprise. We're not going to be bringing anything innovative to the table. And if we do, it's something that we need to keep for competitive scenes like San Diego. Now we got San Diego coming up, and we're going to be using Mecha.
Yeah, of course.
But, you know, that now there's just no point. I mean, like, obviously we want to go and have the advantage or the upper hand in mirror matches and whatnot.
Right.
So Now we're going to be able to do that, and it's not going to be relevant anymore past that. So there's not real any significance of getting it out to the, letting people know at that point, giving advantage. But let me see what else was here. Androids is very strong. I profiled an Android cell deck not too long ago on YouTube channel, and it was something that I actually played. You saw me playing it. You saw. I remember when Androids first got spoiled, you wanted to build something like that, and you know, I went ahead and took my own take on it. And you know, you were with Mecha GT. You were still trying to figure that matchup out because we had like a big event that weekend.
Yeah.
And I was just like, don't waste your time with any Mecha.
Right.
And it ended up being actually extremely powerful. Like, it was very good. Something that it just gives you so much range, and you can do different things. Androids by themselves are just very powerful, and then find that with the cell chain. Now, not to say that Cold Bloodless is gone now. So
right. It's still going to be existent.
Insane. Yeah, I think people are still going to be playing Mecha Frieza, and I really hope that people do. I mean, for it to be around, there's no reason not to. Just want to try other things, obviously, but I think eventually, after the first couple weeks, everybody will just like, you'll see Mecha pop up again. I don't think you'll see it pop up immediately after, because people are just like, oh yeah, I get to try out like some ideas that I had, and you know, and then it's not until you see the weaknesses of those ideas, or you see the strengths of something that just got watered down to the point that you're just like, okay, now. So cell chain androids is definitely something that's good. I tested. I was able to do very well against Mecha. You know, I don't go into cell chain. They just have the pressure of having cell chain there. They always keep the Cold Bloodless in hand, and that's hard. They're playing with the whole game. You know.
Right.
And from there, you have other ways of attacking.
How many of you are going to San Jose? I think
four of us. Four of us playing, probably 4 or 5. Unfortunately, the flights out of Florida are crazy. Like, they're almost non-existent. We will be there. Really wish that this would have been, you know, effective for the regional.
Of course.
But I see Bandai's reasoning to not, because it is very close to
the actual event. The event should be like a week from now. No.
Yeah, it's not this weekend, but next week.
So it still gives people time and stuff.
Yeah.
They don't want to just say surprise, you know. There's an
errata. A lot of people invested into decks, into product. Not to say that a lot of that product goes bad, like in Yu-Gi-Oh! You go and you buy into a deck and it all gets slaughtered, and then you lost your like $100 investment. It's not like this with this hit. This is something that you just have to change the leader. And by changing the leader, you don't even have to change the leader.
You can just maybe change some cards in your main deck.
You have to change a few cards, Monaka, maybe Sensu being, maybe, you know, I think you still play Planet Vegeta because it's very good with the Shugesh combo. But you cut out some of these cards that are just very degenerate, and the cards weren't printed to be used that way. Like Monaka wasn't printed to do that, you know, and it only became very abusive because Mecha Frieza came around. That duo, fantastic. But so yeah, it's gonna be something that's gonna be interesting going forward, and this comes into effect next month, May 1st. So we're not gonna be doing competitively like Bandai official events. We're not Mecha
post
errata as much as people want to. It's not something that you should do, especially when they give a specified date. I mean, most of the time, you know, ban list and date, and then you know, impede on that date. Part just because it's coming. My friend played the mirror list. Alejandro ran a battle series. It crushed me. It maintains reason. So the mirror list that you saw Alejandro play in the battle series was very similar to the third deck that we were playing. It really abuses that mirror card that makes you relentless destruction mirror that lets your opponent guard a card when you play it, which is, I think, super powerful. And then it's a 1500 body. So it's just really, really powerful. And it's something that really abused it. I think that deck abused it, you know, normal. But yeah, it's something that we're going to post a list soon, because I don't think we posted the list. People were just like looking at the battle series. And it looks some idea.
Yeah.
That you can, or something close to it by just looking at Blade, but Rada is too hard. What do you think?
I think if they were to errata the card and not ban it, I think this is probably the best they could have done. A lot of people were recommending that maybe they errata it to once per turn, once on your turn, once on their turn, but the fact that it's so when it's not awakened, it's on its regular side. It says whenever you activate an extra card, you can pay a life on your opponent's turn, only during your opponent's turn. And if you use a skill to add a card to your from your life to your hand, you can't use it for the rest of the turn. So I think that was probably the best way they could have done that. Because if it was to just be once per turn, either player's turn, you don't necessarily have to play Monakas anymore. You can just play Planet Vegeta, trim the Monakas for actual relevant cards, actual cards that that are good throughout all portions of the game. But the fact that they just errated it to only on your opponent's turn makes it where there's not going to be as explosive turns as like your opponent plays like you're playing the Mecha Frieza deck. It's your turn 1, and you're playing multiple Planet Vegetas. You're searching 2-3 Shigeshis on your first turn, and then you just pass. You're already at like 5 or probably even awakened. So if they were to errata the card and not ban it, this is probably the healthiest way they could have done it for the game. I think that the impact that it'll have on the game is that the majority of the meta will no longer be Mecha Frieza, but it's still going to be viable. It's still going to be something that you can actually play. It just requires you to like change up your main and side a bit more. Like you have to play a lot more reactively now if you want to use the leader to the best of its abilities. I think that with the errata as well, it's going to open up for other leaders to be viable in the format, such as you can play any android leader. You could play Mass Saiyan. Mass Saiyan's like probably, in my opinion, the next best deck just because of how it's just a faster Vegeta deck. You could play the Son Goku leader now. Like you're probably actively just cheating mana a lot faster than any other deck as well. Yeah, it's not like you can't play. It's not like you don't have to play Frieza. You can still play Frieza. It's just it's not going to be the same as like how it currently is, in the sense that you pass to your opponent's turn, you have like you're already awakened, you already have access to your super combos, and your opponent is like charging one card and passing. Like if they're not playing Frieza, and that's just not healthy for the game. Right, like the only way you're interacting with an opponent who's already awakened and has access to their super combos is if you're doing the exact same thing. There's just no other leader that could possibly compete with that. Maybe like Mass Saiyan here and there, just because of how all they have to do is overwhelm, get 5 cards in their overwhelm, and then they can activate their super combos. But other than that, there's no other leader that could interact with Frieza and what it does now.
So I think Cell for sure. You can see a lot more Cell.
Like I think any Android leader, perhaps. Like you could play the Mira. The Mira is probably one of the better ways to go, just because of how, like with the Cell leader, you're a lot more reliant on just the Cell chain. The Android, you could either Cell chain someone, or you can just like play a mid-range game with the Androids. They're less mana intensive than normally they would be. They get a 5,000 boost, so they're stronger at attacking, and they also printed new androids with crit, so that's also very good for the actual android leader. And then if you're just playing a mirror leader, you don't have to just play the Cell chain. You can also overwhelm, which is a really good mechanic for the game. So that's another line you can take with any Cell chain variant.
Like you said, the Super Saiyan 3 Goku.
Yeah.
You can also play Buhan.
Yep.
I know you love Buhan.
Yeah, the deck's very good.
With it. Yeah, Charlotte.
Yeah, Charlotte.
You had a lot of success with that deck, and now they have a few new pieces. And I think we actually built a Buhan deck, or no, it was just with the new Buhan.
No, it was just with the new support. None of the red. Right.
And then we played against GT, and I was like, all right, I'm
no,
not
yeah,
it's just this, and I felt really discouraged. Like I'm sure a lot of people first felt when Mecha Frieza came out, like paper form. You're like playing against it, because obviously everybody knew about combos online, solitary and stuff, but you don't really know much until you actually, especially a skill player play against you playing. All right, yeah, I'm playing.
Yeah.
But, this or maybe the veggies or something crazy. But yeah, there's gonna be a few different options that you can take. And then you're just gonna see regular leaders like Beerus leader. Maybe you're gonna be seeing there's 4 new draft leaders coming out too.
We don't know what those do right now, so they could.
Yeah, we need to know what those do. The yellow leader and Bardock, so gonna happen too. And then another thing that people were talking about too is the Sagesh combo.
Yep.
You know, if that needs to be addressed. And that would probably be the next thing on the watch list for Bandai if they end up wanting to take it that route. Just a very powerful leader, super combo that I think maybe should have been character trait specific.
Right, like
androids.
Yep, like the android super combo. Like if you can't play any green leader with the android super combo. The super combo specifically says that you'd actually have to. Can I get some tips on how to defeat just a local play? But you can only play you can only play a green android. Like you can't play a Broly leader and play that super combo. You can't play a Gotenks leader and play that super combo. You can only play the Cell leader or one of the 2 android leaders to play that super combo. So I think what they should have done with Shugesh is that maybe instead of it just saying if your leader is yellow, yada yada, it should be if your leader is yellow, you can cheat like a yellow Saiyan. Because the majority of the game, all their traits are Saiyan. You know, a lot of them are Saiyan, a lot of them are androids. You know, some are Frieza clan, but the fact that it's such a generic trait, I think is what's not healthy about Shugesh.
Yeah, I mean, you see it with other less powerful super combos that they specify, and it just makes it really feel like an unlevel as far as that one just specifying yellow.
Yep.
Specifying. I mean, you either just make them all, like if your leader's green, yellow, blue, whatever, you know, or, you know, you make the more powerful ones. You can make the more powerful ones just like, okay, if this is a green Saiyan or yellow Frieza's army, you know, that would be fantastic.
That would make Shugesh, yeah. That would and like it would still be good. I mean, you're not paying any mana for the creature you're trying to put into play, but it's still gonna have some limitation instead of just, you know, a level 3 or lower Saiyan. And Saiyans, there's Saiyans in every color.
Yeah, no,
in black, yellow, red,
I feel
green,
like Saiyans
blue.
is like the Warriors.
Yeah,
game,
it's the right.
And Warriors, and you guys know, very powerful.
Yeah.
They just have the most utility. That's what Saiyans have. They have removal. They have beatdown, and now in Kaba Khalifa they have removal. Broly. They have searching in Trunks. They have removal in Kid Goku.
Yep.
Like, have a lot of, you know, you have Kale also that gets around that whole lower with the Kaba. It just has so much utility that it might put it at just a significant advantage that you just want to play a yellow leader. You're just influenced to play a yellow leader now. But you might be seeing a lot more Bardock, just regular Bardock, which is not the worst. It's a leader that attacks when unawakened, and it's a yellow leader. And I saw a few people trying that, you know, when Mecha Frieza. Obviously, it didn't make any sense whatsoever in playing that leader over Frieza.
Right.
When Mecha Frieza is an option at its full power.
Sure.
And now you have Mecha Frieza as an option still, but not at full power. Maybe you can start trying these Bardock, or start trying another yellow leader. Maybe even the Goku, the Kid Goku.
Yep.
To an ape.
I think, I think the next best route, if you were to just scratch Mecha Frieza as a leader completely, is actually probably just playing the Ginyu leader, because I believe it's the only yellow leader that can self-awaken. I don't think there's another yellow leader yet. All the other leaders require to either be attacked or to like results of training. So the next best way to try and abuse Shugesh would actually be Ginyu. So you could still play like you could play GT, you could play Mecha, you can play Apes, because they all just require a yellow leader. They don't, you know, Shugesh just requires a yellow leader. So people are still going to want to try and abuse Shugesh as much as possible. But the fact that you're not going to be able to, you know, awaken on turn 1, it's going to have to be turn 4 if you never get attacked, or you can't play like free Planet Vegetas. Like, that's going to be taxing in games. Like, you can't just, you know, if you have, like, you're on turn 4, you have 4 energy charged, you're going to have to spend 1 hard mana for an actual tutor for your deck. You can't just, like, you know, just hard cast a Kale or whatever. You can't play like a Jiren on 4. So that's going to be very relevant. People are going to start seeing that. Are we going to play Frieza errata this weekend at the case event? Yeah.
No, the errata, as you see guys here, right here on next document.
Yeah, the errata
right
takes effect
errata
May
takes
1st.
Effect on May 1st. We're going to play by Bandai's rules. They obviously did this for a reason.
Yeah.
They want to let people who invested a lot into this deck invested into strategies, especially for the regionals.
Mhm.
You just want them, especially because they're not changing anything for the regional. So I don't think it's fair to change anything for the event that we're making to prep those.
Right, to
going
prep
into
for the
regional.
right.
So we're definitely gonna go and abide by this. Maybe some small local events that we have
Sure.
after regionals. I can see maybe if everybody wants to decide to, hey, let's
Yeah.
start practicing now. I would understand. But for the case tournament, this is already something huge that we marketed as. Bandai's not changing their regional format. If they did, then it would be much more beneficial to play by those rules. But you just want to test by with whatever is going to be legal for the next big event,
Right,
which
right.
is what this is why we plan this event to
Yeah.
help a lot of our local players keep those championships in Florida, because now we are 8 for 8 for every Florida champion
Yep.
ever in existence in the Dragon Ball Super card game,
Mhm.
actually being from Florida. And we've had a lot of international players come out and actually test a lot of our talent. Came out on top, so that's really exciting, and I want to make sure that we keep that trend up.
Yep.
We're definitely going to be keeping that till at least until that. And how much longer do we have you here for? 12:50. I think you said you had like class or something.
I think I can be here for until like maybe like 1:20ish or so.
Okay, cool. So we have like another 30 minutes or so, guys. If you guys want to throw in any questions, concerns, comments in the chat portion, we have the chat pulled up. Answer it 100%. And oh, Ginyu, full bloodless, awesome.
Yep,
So
yep.
that's
It's
awesome.
definitely a Frieza clan. So.
And then 4-drop King Cold, and yeah. I mean, we saw. I think that card's just specifically better in Super Saiyan 3 when you untap the 3 energy, because then you just have to pass with 1 energy up, and then King Cold active 4 energy. It's 3. Be able to have 4, maybe even 5 sometimes, just in case you need to have. Who knows, negate or anything. Even though he is an inherent negate, it's always good to have like more side. It is pretty interesting, and there's a lot of different ways that you can go. I mean, I love throwing random leaders out in there. Saw Champa at Charlotte Regional do very well.
Trunks prior to, like, there was no talk of Trunks being around in the meta, and then all of a sudden it's just doing well at regionals. Yeah.
Trunks is still very good and powerful. You're gonna see maybe Vegeta make a comeback now, because now I feel like Masain was the new Vegeta in the way that it was just better against Mecha, and now maybe, I know Eddie St. Hilaire for sure is going to be trying to get Mecha in there as far as like being competitive and just being able to do something as far as like, being able to attack decks in a very aggressive way, hand control, hand destruction, things like that. And I feel like Vegeta is actually one of those things that can do it efficiently while self-awakening.
Right.
Because that's the only problem that Masain has.
Right, it's the whole
for like
right,
the
right.
love of it. So that's the only issue that you see here. I feel like this is just something that's good that we know that is possible. And we just go like forward with. And it's just something that we can see probably in the future, anytime that something gets out of hand. Not to say that we cause a huge commotion over that, but it's still something that it's good to know that if they do end up making a mistake, that they don't obligated to not do something about it. Like, I feel like they just still feel some type of responsibility to do it. Not to say that just like cause a riot about everything that you don't like, because that's not what you want to do. It's not about like, sometimes a game does adapt in ways that people don't like. Maybe sometimes the game gets faster and stuff, and that's not necessarily bad. There's not a very good super slow game that's been around for years. I think Magic is probably the only one, and it's only because they have rotation.
Right.
Without rotation, they would.
But yeah, I definitely think that the errata continues to show how Bandai actually cares about the community and the health of the game. So that's also something, like, they continue to show that whenever there's possibly a problem with any card or any leader, that they're always like interested in trying to make the game as healthy as possible. I believe that the top decks will still involve a yellow leader, probably more than likely Ginyu, any Android variant that just revolves around Cell Chain. It's possible that the starter Goku can actually make a comeback now that there's going to be like more open leaders, and it's going to be a very good like mid-range leader to play with. Like, you're still going to be able to play like two threats a turn. You're going to be able to still have the 5-drop Go tanks into like what, Kale or Beerus or anything like that.
Yeah, no, I totally forgot that was an actual leader
Yeah, because
like everything seems like it was just
yeah,
like
it was
a race
just
and like
right.
race with Mecha. So definitely Goku. And I think Goku made a comeback at the beginning because it was just very strong against the Mecha deck.
This
And
was
I
prior
think
to
because Mecha,
Crossworlds.
yeah, and I think Mecha, because it got so many more tools, just like propelled itself like way ahead of Goku to the point. Just back to the point. It's like, okay, Mecha took 3 steps back, and now enough. I mean, Goku also got some new things too to save up the future. I think the green event card brings back Sun Goten. You can untap 2 energy with the Sun Goten, tap another energy with the Goku Link. So essentially, you get a free Gotenks if you play it off the event, and it just brings out a green from the drop area. So it's still something that very powerful, and a lot of people were super hyped up about at the beginning when that card got spoiled, and it just never got a chance to do anything. You have that, you have Majin Buu, Cell, you have pretty much any Android, just to lay off Cell. Peter can play his Mecha Mutant deck. I mean, it might even be worse now because it might be just Cell running around.
Yeah, and
I think that's unwinnable for them.
It just, yeah.
But it was still, like, it was decent against Mecha, and I saw him play it against Mecha, and it wasn't really wow. I mean, the whole barrier thing really hurts that deck, but you don't always have barrier.
Right.
Especially if you're not playing apes, Apes sometimes don't even, they stumble and they think. So, makes a lot of these decks just have a lot
potentially
more,
viable.
Yeah, decks a lot more viable, and I think we're going to be pumping out some battle series with some Mecha errata'ds. I think I'll try with like one of the other players that are not going to San Jose. I don't want to get you guys like tied up, and that's not something great. It is something that we are going to have to worry about very soon. May 1st, once again, on the errata is the official day that this should be taking place. So any events that Bandai chooses to announce, and I feel like those announcements should be coming soon, because in about 2 weeks you'll have no other events, regionals. There's nothing to really look forward to at all. So I think you're gonna have Bandai come out, I think maybe a week, and just announce where these other regionals are gonna be. These other people are hosting these regionals, because as we ARG's trial period is now over. So their exclusivity and their only, their ability to run regionals in X place is now going to be to other parties that are going to be able to making the, hosting these events. So you're going to be seeing a lot more things to look forward to, and that's good that they made this product so that, people can test for it, and then added interest, before anything actually gets spoiled as far as like events. You're just like, okay, let me address a problem first. After we address the problem, let's go and get people. Let's get people excited, because we have a lot of new products coming out. The draft box, we have people, Tournament of Power set coming out, which you can all order at.
Right.
You got your order.
Yep.
Just kidding. We got you with whatever you need.
Yeah.
And I don't think I got an answer before. Do we have confirmation? This document. Yeah. No. This is.
It's 100% confirmed.
Yep. It's 100% confirmed. We had shot some emails back and forth with Bandai, and it doesn't look as real because it's not on the website.
It's not on their official website.
But this is like a 5-page document. I don't know how you fit that onto a page without making it look terrible. So I don't blame them. 7 pages.
Yeah.
And I'm sure they might put it on the website soon, but I feel like they just wanted to get that out there as soon as possible. They might have just rushed it. But yeah, there's no way, unless they got hacked by somebody who had this, grudge against Mecha Frieza.
Yeah.
And it seems like it's something that they would write up, especially because of all the documents that they got like this, probably similar from other places and stores and sources. But yeah, it's on their official page, and I don't see any reason why not, because this is something that they put on the watch list like preemptively. It didn't just like out of nowhere, boom, this is what happened. They acknowledged the problem from the start. They were like, okay, and then they even provided the deck list, which I think super funny. Not to take anything about it from them. You know, they reference green black Massane as the counter to the deck when you clearly know that Massane's a counter to the deck, but they're playing green in it for some reason. They're playing two Zamasu, two of the evil sex Zamasu when you can only actually have one in play,
yeah,
which is funny. And then two Khalifas. I just don't understand what the reasoning with these decks are. They probably don't have a great team that actually makes decks, but it's cool that they actually provide solutions and they want to be proactive, even though they're not 100% there yet, because you can't really expect them to be 100% there, to be honest. Like, it's something they're pretty new to, and can't expect them to just be perfect, and I think they're being as close to perfect as possible in the way that they're admitting to their mistakes, because nobody's going to be perfect at the end of it.
Right,
like,
right.
It's all human error. It's like chain of commands that you need to go through always, and you know, nothing's ever going to be. So I think them acknowledging any type of like errors and then actively going and, okay, let me take some sample data, let me take some input from the players, let me get some inputs from store owners, got surveys on all that stuff too. They actively wanted to know what players were saying at our Super Release tournament, what people were feeling during the event, how many people showed up. They even want a deck list.
Yep.
So, and I don't think they would post like somebody else's deck list. You know, like they wanted to try to make something themselves. So that's why you probably see something so like shoddy. And, you know. They need external. Yeah, I mean they probably need external play test groups. But you never know. They probably do. They probably do have an external play test group. And it's really just up to the competency or the familiarity of those groups, and we don't know that. It can be in a totally different. I mean, you see it in Yu-Gi-Oh! A lot. They have like their OCG side of the game, and they come up with some like really crazy off the wall, like even in Magic I see it sometimes. They just have like in Magic, you know, the Japanese players will some off the wall really like crazy strategy and deck or concept or whatever. And they just think of the game in a totally different way, which is really interesting. And that's why I really like having national scale to all these games, because you see like what they come up with versus what you come up with, even though you both have the same
access to the same cards in the pool.
So it's really interesting to see, and it's not something that really can fault them for. They think different, you know. Every one of us think different. I'd all have the general same. Want all the final same outcome, but might approach it different. So the red, blue, black Pan deck that they actually provided here, and Pan was actually one of the top 4 decks here at our Super Release tournament. He was the gentleman who played against Peter. Peter beat him, Pan deck, and then Justin, you had to play Andrew Duvall on the other side of the bracket. And that's how that played out. So we had a Mecha GT, a Mecha Monkey, a Pan, and a Massane. Yep. But anyways, the other 2 decks that they do reference here, the Pan deck and the Massane deck, it's funny because those are the other 2 decks that were in the top 4 of our Super Release tournament. And I don't think Pan made it that far to any Super Release tournament. And it's really funny. This guy's list actually looks very similar too. I'm probably going to pull it up here on DBS decks and see exactly how similar it is, because it's funny that they reference 2 cards there, 2 decks that are counters of Mecha, and those happen to be the 2 exact decks that ended up making it to the top 4 of our event. Decks. By the way, shout out to DBS decks, guys. If you guys have not checked them out, please do so as soon as you can. I don't imagine anybody who hasn't really checked out this website yet is mastery. And no, it was a mono red, so he played a little bit mono red. So like I said, they're probably not going to take somebody's exact deck list and put it on there. I don't think they want to do that. And for you guys, I don't know. Let's see what pops up. So that's the, okay, that's the, All right, cool. So this is the Pan deck that Oscar Elias topped our super release for, and he got top 4, which is very, very noteworthy. And I think he beat a Mass Sane in top 8. And there was a bunch of Mecha Frieza. There was so much Mecha Frieza at our event. And for him to get there with this is just something pretty remarkable. It was very good. I was happy to see something like this end up doing very well at our event. And as you can see here, I think there's a way to like visual view it.
Yeah, yeah.
I have my like window set up really awkwardly. As you can tell, I'm a very big novice at this. But okay, that's not as good. Okay, what I really like about this too is just that it actually shows you like the price of the deck.
Yeah, which is really cool.
You can actually buy it, you know, straight from our site as well. We normally have like we have like the most full or comprehensive, or at least we try to. And it tells you like a rough estimate of the deck. I think it takes like TCG player market price, which is what we're normally like at or cheaper. And it's really interesting to document all these things. And then you can even leave comments over here by the side, deck notes and stuff like that. So shout out again to Mark for doing an amazing job with the website. But that's definitely something to keep into consideration, that they did suggest 2 decks that did very well at our event, and we were the second largest event. And I don't think Pan did anything at the core TCG event. I mean, I could be mistaken, but I don't remember it doing anything there. So that's really cool for them to go and be like, okay, yeah, these are the 2 decks that did well in this format, and we know that they have tested results. Maybe not that exact build, but obviously they're not going to go and copy paste somebody else's list. I don't think that's what they would ever do.
Yeah.
And other than that, it's just telling you, it even gives you like some text advice and stuff. Like, this is another strong counter to the archetype. Your opponent will be playing battle cards with 1500 more power. So they know that Mecha loses to pressure, which is really cool for them to like really take into consideration and whatnot. Yeah, not playing aggressively sometimes is great, because you can out-resource your opponent. It's very hard to out-resource Mecha Frieza. Very, very hard, but it is possible. It is something that can be done. And Pan does a very good job of doing that, because every time you play a threat, you replace the threat, and then you can do whatever you want with the threat. And we already know that from being good.
Yeah.
Yeah, so other than that, let's see. We're down to 25 viewers, so thank you guys again for watching this discussion. It's been pretty productive. I think we went over all the main parts. I don't want to keep you guys longer and ramble.
Right.
But I think that's pretty much the gist of it. Mecha Frieza getting hit, Bandai listening, not completely going the super out of the way and just killing it. They just wanted to leave it alive, at least for now. I'm sure it'll still be on their watch list, because with any errata, with a card that's very powerful like this and keeps getting better every set, like, you never know. Next set,
the power creep of all extra cards just continue to.
And extra cards are never going to stop being printed.
Right.
And there's going to be better ones that you can play, on your opponent's turn. I'm sure. I'm sure they want to keep it to that you have reactions on your opponent's side. So I think that's what makes it very interesting, and that's what you see Magic be very interesting, because you can counter spells and all these things. So definitely really interesting, and it's something that we're going to keep our eye on, and we're going to be testing decks with the errata and things that are just not Mecha, because we definitely are interested on how Mecha is going to perform with the errata. I'm sure it's still going to be a threat, but the question is how big of a threat. So that's something that we're going to find out. Thank you guys again for watching our impromptu stream. I mean, I'm sorry the quality was not all 100%, but we tried as best as we could. And I hope it was good enough to bring you guys a small amount of coverage on something that was very big and revolutionary for the game, because it showed a huge company listening to its player base and making things a lot more interactive and fun for its player base, which is something that we appreciate. So thank you guys again over there at Bandai, if you guys are watching, and all you guys at home for watching this impromptu stream. Really appreciate it. We're going to try to make these as regular as possible. But anyways, thank you guys again. Until next time.
Yep.
Stay pro.